Okay, so let's have a look inside this thing. I've got it upside down. And what you can see here is the layer of insulation, which I got at a ceramics store. And then there's a layer of sheet metal, which is probably overkill, but I just put that in there to keep everything in place, to keep the insulation in place. And that's just being held with about 3 bolts that are going right through the outside. Okay, now it's the right side up, and you can see the heat disperser. I just basically punched a whole bunch of holes in there with a hammer and a nail. And so this is the surface where I can, if I wanted to roast stuff, I could just throw the grain on top of that. And then on top of that, I've got my half barrel, and that's got a little barbecue thermometer in there, and a few bolts to hold up this Weber grill. And that's about 8 inches or so from the top. So basically right now I'm using some screen, just some metal window screens held in place with some magnets that I put along the edge there, and that's what contains the barley. Now I'm going to work on this. What I need is sort of something like a basket to hold the grain in, and I haven't found it yet, but I'm working on that part. And then we've got the lid, which is insulated with this water heater insulation stuff. Doesn't do a very good job. You still get some condensation coming out here, but I think I'm going to have to add a little more insulation around it, and probably some insulation around the outside of this section here. Again, just to avoid the condensation happening on the inside, because you don't want that dripping onto your malt. So the reasoning behind using these gas fires is just because I'm trying to mimic an old-fashioned malt kiln, which would have been fueled with either wood. Sometimes they use straw, which I don't get how they did that, because straw just burns like paper. So there's something to that I have to figure out. I've also got a little one here. The idea is the same. There's a can inside this can, and I've just cut a bunch of notches in the top of the can and folded it over the lip of this. This is a small paint can. So you got holes in the bottom, holes on the bottom of the inside, the inner can. If you can see those. And holes along the top for the gas to come out. Now, each can, when it's filled with wood pellets, lasts an hour. These will last like 45 minutes. So it's a very clean burn, not much smoke happening, but there is still some smoke flavor imparted to the grain. There would be more smoke flavor if I used these for the entire process, the entire drying process, which I'll do someday, but that's a lot of hours manning these gas fires and changing it every 45 minutes or so. But for now, I'm just using it to do the curing temperature, so the last 4 or 5 hours or so. Now with the one gasifier and the insulated barrel, I've managed to maintain the temperature at 225 degrees, which is a lot higher than before when I didn't have the insulation inside. It was just the barrel, and I actually had to use 2 of the big ones and 2 of the small ones to bring the temperature up that high. But now with the insulation, the heat's going directly through here. It's a little bit on the hot side. I wish it was a little bit lower, but the malt temperature for the brown malt that I just did stayed below 210. So the highest it got was like 206, I think. So just looking through just a little sample, you're going to get some that are slightly more charred than the others, depending on where the heat was coming from through the floor of the kiln. Some are actually caramelized. This one is pretty charred. I suspect if I bite into it, yeah, it's going to be fully charred on the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty much black on the inside. Same idea with this one. It's slightly browner in color. That one is chewy, so that one caramelized. I started kilning when it was about 14%. So there's going to be some that are partially caramelized and others that are charred, and then some that are just starchy, like that one. This is pure white. So an interesting variety, almost like you have a whole recipe right in here. Oh, look at that one. It's actually quite brown on the inside. So there's going to be some biscuity flavors coming out of that. Interesting.